Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome to round 3 of this IRC Tier 1 F1 2020 Championship. And if you watched the previous video, you would know that I had a DNF in Australia and Bahrain. I had finished on the podium for a P3. So, yeah, I think Hanoi, the very first time I would be driving this circuit, and I was kind of hopeful of getting a decent position on the grid because I knew that this race would be all about consistency, and consistency is one of our key strengths. And this track in Hanoi in Vietnam is very narrow, as you will see right now while we're on our installation run. It's just very easy to have a lapse in concentration and make contact with the wall or the driver in front of you because it's just so all closely packed. But coming on to our first flying run, and it was still early in the session, so the track was not really ready as we go in deep into turn 1, and then towards the end of sector 1 we had this for good measure. So I knew that this would not be my fastest lap, definitely, because yeah, I had a lot of issues in the first sector itself. So trying to make the most out of it, I tried to have a slipstream from my teammate, but to no avail, unfortunately, as we come into sector 3. And the thing with sector 3 is that if you're not in the right frame of mind, if you're not in the rhythm, so to speak, because this track, driving this track around Hanoi is just, it's like playing a musical instrument, and if you're not in the rhythm, you're just not going to have a fast lap time. And as we do a really slow lap, so coming up to a second flying lap, and as you can see, without the issues in sector 1, we're already about a second up coming out of this slow hairpin, and I knew that this could be a good lap if I could just hook up the last sector. And then now coming up to this third sector itself, it's just so close to the walls. Every corner you feel like you're going to have a crash. And then coming up to this right hander, we give this wall on the right hand side a slight kiss, and you can tell that I was really trying to push this car. But these last two corners was where I lost the most time. I was just not confident enough to go into fifth gear and then slow it down. So I knew that for my last flying lap, these two corners needed an improvement, and I was pretty hopeful at this moment. I knew that if I could just do a really good lap, it was very likely that I would end up on pole position. But towards the end of this qualifying session, I have no idea why, but it was just, yeah, I was not getting allowed to leave the pits somehow, and I knew that it would be really critical with the timing because it would be a mess towards the end, and if we come across anybody who's on a hot lap behind us, we might not be able to do this final run. But thankfully we make it just in time with 10 seconds to spare. And let me take you around for a lap of this new Hanoi circuit. So coming up into turn 1, just after the 100-meter board, brake in a straight line, and then it's very important to not take that curb. You can either just send your car across it or this don't touch it at all. But this corner is probably one of the toughest on the calendar, and yeah, trying to keep it clean through that section as we do and carry a lot of momentum out of there. And we have Babaji in front of us again, so it was critical pretty much to not get held up by anybody. And coming up into this corner at the 100-meter board again, and it's important to make more use of the curves there, but we're just about fine in that respect. But coming out of this corner is just very important to have a really good exit, because what follows is probably one of the longest straights in Formula 1. So if you're slow on exit there, you would lose time through this entire straight, and that is not something that you want. And coming up into this slow left hairpin, it's critical now for me to pass Babaji or for him to back out for this last qualifying run, because if I were to follow him through this sector 3, I knew that this would really damage my lap time, and he's ice skating in front of us pretty much. So I knew that if I were to do this sector 3 behind him, I would not improve at all. So through these twisty and narrow corners, we are behind Babaji and trying to gain as much time as possible as he runs in wide. I have no idea if he was just letting us pass or what was there, but we are about a tenth down now, and these last two corners is where I would have to really just throw the car in. Just look at the commitment going through that corner, just throwing the car into this left-hander, and then just look at the distance to the wall on the right on exit. And we come in P3 just behind the defending champion, that is Maranello baby, and around 6/100ths of a second behind IRC No More Pro Players. So it was now that I realized that the pole position was really on. If I were not behind Babaji through that sector 3, through half of it at least, it was just it was an easy pole, as I say on the team radio itself. So definitely not an ideal quali, but I think it was important to let that past us now, and it was really important to now focus on the race. And for the race, as I'd practiced a lot of multiple times, I think It was just a straightforward one stopper, and the strategy and everything was pretty clear cut even from before the race. So I knew that I had to do a one stop and pit around lap 8 or 9 depending on the opportunity for an undercut on the guys in front of me. So 7% tire wear, and I think it could have been around 5 to 6 had I not had to push in the last stages, if I were not just so close with the time. But right now it's about to be lights out in Hanoi, and yeah, we're underway for this lap 1 of this round 3 of the IRC Tier 1, and we get a decent start coming up into turn 1. We're side by side with Maranello Baby, and we run in just ever so slightly wide and deep into this corner, so not an ideal first corner, and we have to let Maranello Baby by. But just coming up into this corner, he's just so off the line, and I knew that this might be an opportunity coming up into turn 4, so I instantly turned the car into rich and overtake mode available. So we are trying to slipstream into this turn, and I just decide against it halfway through the straight, because this is just lap 1 of this 28 lap race, and I knew that I had the pace to challenge these guys later on in the race. So now it was just important to just keep it clean, keep it tidy through this first stint at least, and not get any damage, because any damage around through to the front wing, or even just depleted ERS or fuel, will cost us in the long run. And this one stopper strategy is pretty much a game of patience, to be honest, because you have to stretch your tires out for 28 laps, and if you want decent lap times towards the end of the race, you need to be really conservative with your driving in the initial stages, because if you use the tires too much in the initial stages, you will pretty much be sliding around towards the later half of the race. And you can see Maranello Baby in front of us. He's having oversteering moments out of every corner pretty much, so I knew that he was feeling the pressure, and it was important for me now to pressurize him more into making mistakes. And right now my entire objective was to make sure that IRC No More Pro player in P1 should not break free from our DRS, and if I were to have a chance of finishing P1, it was now race critical for me to get past Maranello Baby and really launch an attack on IRC No More Pro player. And coming up into this slow right and left section, you can see that Maranello Baby is locking up, and we are visibly faster than him through this slow section. He's just taking the widest of lines possible, and it was now critical for us to just make use of his mistakes and get past him. But slipstream on this game is just not as effective as it can be, and it's just so tough. You have to really rely on the exit that you get and not slipstream or DRS, because we're not really gaining time into this braking zone. And I think even if you are faster than the car ahead, I think it's just easy to get close by, but then overtaking is just a whole different game altogether. So coming up to lap 3, and now DRS should be in play, and now I was kind of hopeful of maybe making use of DRS overtake and our exit as well to get past Maranello Baby. And as you can see in front of us, IRC No More Pro player is kind of extending his lead, and it's easier done in free air, and that is what I wanted for myself as well. But coming out of this corner on this occasion behind Maranello Baby, I knew that we would have overtake mode available and DRS as well, so it was kind of interesting to see what kind of performance we can pull on this straight now. So DRS again is available, and we're not really that close to have a go into the slow left hairpin, but we are gaining time faster than we were without the DRS, and it's very important now for me to stick close by and just pressurize him into a mistake or something on the next lap as we come around for a lap. And we just do a fastest lap, and it holds for about half a second, because Moto behind us now is also pushing, so it would be pretty much a double whammy if we get overtaken by Moto, because I felt that I was not really being able to drive to my pace because we were stuck behind Maranello Baby, and if we get overtaken by Moto behind us, that would really be kind of just jeopardize the chances of finishing P1 in this race. But we're gaining so much time under braking, as you can see, and it's just through this section, if you get too close, which I was trying not to, but if you get too close, then your front wing is always in danger. But with DRS we are getting ever so closer lap after lap, and I knew that I had the pace at least to challenge on this next lap. But somehow through that last section and onto the start finish straight, Maranello baby seemed to have had a little more distance to us on this occasion, so it would be kind of interesting to see if we can gain anything on him, which we do ever so slightly. So now he goes wide into this corner, so now I knew that I had to turn up the engine and use overtake as much as I can if I wanted to have a go into this next left hairpin. And we're gaining ever so slightly on him, and coming up to this DRS zone, we are in his slipstream pretty much, and this is where I felt that I was not really committed to the move, because I just switched off my overtake mode before the braking zone, and it's just impossible to make a move around the outside because this curve really unsettles the car, and if you're on the throttle too much too early, you will be facing the other way before even knowing it. So yeah, it was kind of tricky now. And through this section I now realized that both of us, the car in front of me and ourselves, we were kind of struggling with tire wear now, because these tires were pretty much nearing the end of their life. But coming up into this corner, as Moto just tries to make a really ambitious move, and I was in no mood to just sabotage my line for a car that was behind us. So we give him a little squeeze, block him, and yeah, I think that was risk evaded. But coming up into sector 1 on lap 7, I now realized that just overtaking on track might not be a real possibility, and I was now just thinking about all the different types of strategies I could do to kind of just throw Maranello baby off and undercut him or something. So I decided to pit on lap 7, and it was now really critical for me to have a really good out lap and an in lap, because if I were to get in front of him on strategy, I really needed to make it work now. So really pushing the car through these last stages, but Maranello baby pits as well in front of us, and we were just so close to getting a 5-second penalty, because if you speed in the pit lane you get a 5-second penalty, and it's just so tricky. We were locking up on entry, but now get your eyes to the left side of the screen, and as you will see in front of us, the Renault team just having those yellow walled medium tires, and instantly I tell my race engineer that it's just, yeah, I was not worried at all now, because this was definitely the wrong strategy, and a two-stopper around Hanoi in traffic, he would have to do a really stellar drive to make that two-stop strategy work. And in terms of pace, I knew that he was kind of not really that fast on this occasion. So now on the following lap, it's interesting to see what other people in front of us are doing. So IRC No More Pro Player is also doing the one-stopper, and I tell my race engineer exactly that. So it would be a sprint race with IRC No More, and towards the end it's really important now for me to close up, and let's see, maybe later in the race I could have an opportunity. But now this section of the video you will see that what really makes a race interesting. So coming up to lap 11 now, and ending it at a lap time of 1 minute 40.4, and I knew that this was not the pace that I was capable of. I would definitely go faster later on, because these hard tires just take a lap or 2 or 3 to get really turned up in terms of temperature, and once you're in that window, it's very easy to stay consistent, and that is what matters in terms of a race. So coming up at the end of lap 15, I think this was my last bad lap, and then thereafter you see a video on 1 minute 39.8 on lap 15. Lap 16 again is a 1 minute 39.3. So now I knew that these hard tires were in the window, and it was all up to me now to just maintain this consistency throughout the end. And if I could just manage to do that, this is pretty much my race pace as I practiced in my practice sessions. So I think doing something in practice is a different thing, and then just trying to replicate that in the race itself is pretty tough. So I think with every race that I'm doing, with every league race, I think I'm just getting closer and closer to my potential. And I'm not saying that these are really fast times. I think if you happen to watch esports players or just really fast guys at this game, the race pace is about a second faster than what I'm doing on the hard tires right now. But definitely I think those guys, it would take some time for me to reach to that level. But right now all I can manage is a mid to high 39, and I really wanted to be in that window for the entirety of this race. So now Maranello baby rejoins after his pit stop, and he is about 19 seconds behind us. So even now I knew that to to cover a gap of around 20
Go
seconds
on the medium.
in 10 laps. It's just he would have to drive a really stellar race,
You won't make
and
it on the
I knew
soft space.
that he would not be a threat coming towards the end of this session. So just trying to maintain a clean and consistent race, and just every lap I was kind of asking my engineer and even Jeff in game to just check what the guy in front of me was doing, what kind of tire wear he had, and also if he had any penalties, because that was just really important right now for me, because I had to really strategize when I would be going for a push, for an attack, and we do a 1 minute 39.8 again on lap 19. So coming up towards the end of lap 20 again, and as I said previously, every lap pretty much I was asking my race engineer if he had a penalty or if he had damage or anything like that, because any opportunity, and I was just at this point I was just waiting to pounce, because I just had about 20 to 30% of ERS in my bank, and if I were to go for a push, it would have to be in one go, because I could not just make a move and then just stay behind him, because I knew I had to be really certain that I would have to get past him if I were going to use all my ERS, and just getting close and then staying behind him like we did with Maranello baby would not really help. But we see an end plate towards the end of lap 22, and I was just really hoping, really praying at this moment that it was no more pro player who had damage, because if he had damage, then it would mean that we could just really go for an attack right now. But he was just pulling through this slow right-hander, and that end plate kind of looked like that it was from the car in front. So we negotiate this back marker, and it was just about just getting closer to IRC no more pro player, and we are so consistent with the lap times. We stuck to 1 minute 39.7, and we do the same exact time, I think, lap after lap after lap, and just a bad lap here and there, I think, with behind one of the back markers we do a 1 minute 40.0, just 3/10 off. But I think lap after lap after lap it was all about doing the same times, and Maranello baby now is 7 seconds behind us, but I knew that his tires would be nearing their end as well. So the only objective right now was to just stay within 3 seconds at least of no more pro player, and just see if he has a penalty later on, as we do a 1 minute 39.7 again. So we were just doing as much as we could at this moment. I think I could not have been faster, and I think just a no more pro player also in front of us had the same pace, but that initial stage where he was in free air, as we do a 1 minute 39.6. So yeah, as I was saying, that initial phase when he was in free air, and now these tires have pretty much just let go, and yeah, you can see on the front right tire it's just so much the graining and everything. So now I knew that just this opportunity was gone, and I would have to settle for P2 in this race. So I was kind of happy that we did do a really consistent race, and again disappointed because I really thought that pole was on the cards for us, but yeah, just making our way through this last couple of corners, and still being really committed, as you will see our distance to the wall with our front right wheel, and we'd come around to complete this race in P2. And
position when he
Great
goes
job.
into
Great job.
well done, Russell. Nice one, dude.
yeah, as I was
Really
saying, it
well
was
done.
just really a consistent
well
drive
done.
from us, and it's just so important at this level, I think, to have a really good quali, because in free air it's just a different race altogether, and just following another slow car, it's just really, in the long run, it really hampers your race. But we were on P3 on the podium last time. This time we're in P2, so hopefully, let's see, we're on the right path at least, and maybe in the future very soon you would see me winning a race in this tier 1 of the IRC 2020 F1 championship, and just checking to see how many warnings other people had. So just consistent races from both ourselves and IRC no more pro player, and just after lap 15, as you can see on your screen right now, our lap time was just, I just did consistently 39 sevens pretty much throughout the race on hard tires, and that is pretty much everything that is important in league racing. You have to stay consistent. You have to be really wary of your lap times. So the strong race in Hanoi would see us through to the fourth position on the leaderboard, And who knows, maybe if I didn't have that issue with Steam in Australia, that might have been better still. So, the objective, as always, is to win this league ourselves and also the constructors. So, all efforts in the future would be aimed towards that one goal. But if you liked this video, then make sure you give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel for all the future videos of this league. And well, I do loads of other stuff, so make sure you check that out on the channel as well. And yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Do all the good stuff, give it a like, share it with your friends, and yeah, just stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you in the next one.